Hi, so today I'll be talking about the game Emily is Away for my CTIN 190 final assignment. And my argument for the game is, with its simple controls, Emily is Away uses a nostalgic aesthetic and choice-driven interactions to deliver a coherent and immersive narrative about transformation, friendship, and the passage of time. So, starting off with, what is Emily is Away? Emily is Away is a narrative-driven indie video game series created by Kyle Seeley, and the game simulates instant messaging conversations on platforms resembling AOL, which on the top right you can see there's an example, and it's from the early 2000s, and players interact with characters by selecting dialogue options. And since I'm looking at the first Emily is Away game, uh, the player would be interacting with Emily, and their dialogue options shapes their relationships and outcomes over the course of the story, depending on the dialogue choice. And the series explores themes of nostalgia, friendship, and love, and the challenges of growing up, because in the game Emily is Away, the player starts their story from high school all the way to college. And the first game, which I'll be discussing about, is Emily is Away. And it's mainly on platforms such as Steam, and it's about the relationship with a girl named Emily. There's also other series of the game, such as Emily's Away 2, which is released on 2017, and Emily's Away, well, technically free, but they used a heart for the symbol, which is released 2021. And it expands the story with more characters. And the games are beloved for their nostalgic charm and emotional storytelling. And to start off with, the definition of narrative. Um, so narrative refers to the structured story or sequence of events that unfolds within a game, often shaped by player actions. So for example, in Emily is Away, the narrative is entirely text-based, unfolding through chat messages exchanged with Emily, and the story changes based on player responses, leading to multiple possible outcomes. And you can see on the bottom there's the examples of the game, and you you talk with Emily purely by selecting the choices that is very limited. And since you're making these choices, it may seem limited. However, it's very immersive at the same time since you're playing as the player, which is presumably someone that is talking with Emily. And so next off is the definition of nostalgia. And nostalgia is a sentimental longing for the past, often invoked through aesthetic or cultural elements. And this part, Emily is Away technically does both. So for example, the game's retro design, which is AOL, instant messenger inspired visuals, and period specific language and cultural references captures the feel of early 2000s internet culture. So the design of Emily is Away, as well as the overall culture and the texting methods, all symbolizes the early 2000s, which may be appealing to players who have been on the internet since the early 2000s. And so, to support this claim, there's a quote from the book we read in class called What is Interactivity? And it says, nostalgia often functions as a bridge between personal memory and cultural history. And finally, we have the definition of choice. So, what is choice? Choice is games. Choice in games refers to the player's ability to make decisions that affect the narrative or gameplay outcomes. So you can see on the right, you have a choice of profile picture, you have a choice of dialogue options. That's all choice in the game Emily's Away. And this choice greatly impacts the gameplay outcomes since there are multiple endings that you can discover through the different choice options. And for example, the dialogue choices in Emily is Away are impactful and directly influencing Emily's responses and the trajectory of the relationship. The branching paths allow for personalized story, and I would add on to this a more immersive story overall, because as you're choosing what to do, you're also choosing something that follows your own personal opinions and also what your preferences are like. As a result, you would feel much more immersive and personalized. And so, for a quote from the same reading, What is Interactivity? It highlights that choice highlights the theme of emotional responsibility as players see the consequences of their words and actions. And this is very clear in the game Emily is Away because as you're making different choices, the response of Emily is instantaneous, and your final ending would also depend on the choice and actions you're making. And then we have the paratextual reference, which is nostalgic indie game trend. And Emily is Away, which is released in 2015, emerged during what is called the rebirth of indie games that tapped into nostalgia for early internet culture. And this release of a nostalgic game allows for players to be incredibly attracted, as I mentioned before, especially those who have once used the internet in the early 2000s. And this trend reflects a collective longing for a simpler and pre social media online world. And games like Emily's Away focus on personal storytelling and minimalist mechanics, contrasting with the high budget, action oriented games dominating the industry, such as triple A's. And Emily's Away provide a nice twist and a nice difference compared to those triple A's because it's not as complicated. You don't have to use your brain as much. However, the effect of the game is still similar. You enjoy it and you're having fun and you're feeling very immersive overall. And so there's also a key scene analysis. So on the bottom right, it shows the part where Emily no longer wants to talk to you and presumes to leave, saying Emily is away, which is the title of the game. And the moment where Emily no longer wants to talk to the player is the emotional climax of Emily is Away, and embodying the game's themes of transformation, friendship, and the passage of time through its simple controls and choice driven interactions. This scene highlights the fragility of relationships as earlier decisions accumulate in Emily's withdrawal, and the nostalgic chat interfaces amplifies the emotional weight, making the breakdown of communication feel both personal and inevitable. Since the inevitable part refers to how no matter what choice you make, the ultimate result would be Emily no longer wants to talk to you. And the auto delete mechanic underscores the player's powerlessness and reflecting how some connections, no matter the effort, are destined to drift apart, a poignant reminder of the impact of time and choice. And the game also has a few reviews. So, for example, on Rock Paper Shotgun, which is a online publishing website for games, so it said it's a evocative storytelling and nostalgic appeal, which refers to the game's overall looks as well as the culture it assembles, which is the early 2000s, as well as the pixel art style. And IGN said that Emily is Away is innovative but limited narrative scope, which rated it a 7.8 out of 10. The limited narrative scope is often inevitable for indie games such as Emily is Away, but however, the innovative complement to Emily is Away is very true here since it allows a nostalgic approach. And for PC Gamer, emotional depth shines despite its simplicity, and it rated it a 82 out of 100. The emotional depth again refers to the nostalgia the game brings. And a very positive review on Steam, which you can see on the bottom right, receiving over 31,000 reviews. And yeah, for the conclusion, Emily is Away masterfully combines a nostalgic aesthetic and choice driven gameplay and a minimalist narrative to create an emotional exploration of transformation, friendship, and the passage of time. Its retro chat interfaces immersive players in a familiar culture moment, while its branches dialogue system personalizes the story, making the emotional stakes feel deeply personal. The game's focus on relationships and communication highlights the fragility of human connections, with each choice carrying meaningful consequences. Despite its simplicity, Emily's Away resonates on a universal level, leaving players to reflect on their own experiences with fleeting connections and the inevitability of change. Thank you.